Are you ready for the word?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you before I'll tell you what, go ahead and turn to 3 John. I suggested to you, I think 3 weeks ago, that we would, I feel an urging to start studying and looking into new moons or new months and their significance, and I am studying, but it's not yet time to start teaching on those things. And when it is time, then when it's either time or I'm prepared or both, then we will do that. Today we're going to be in 3 John 2. Let me ask you while you turn there to consider the titles that you have. We all have titles. We all are known by some title or the other. So of all the titles that you have, which is the one you cherish the most? Whether it be an employee, an employer, an owner, a manager, a dad. Granddad's a pretty good title to have. Supervisor. I'm messianic. Is that a title? A Sabbath keeper, a feast observer. Of all the titles you have, which is the one that you cherish the most? Or let me ask it this way. If you could have any title you wanted, what title would that be? Who would you want to be? What would you want to be known as? Doctor? Prophet? Oh, great one. I mean, what title is it that you cherish? How do we want to be known? How do we want people to think of us and address us? Because our title, the way people address us, can say a lot about us, about who we are. So what title do we hope or wish that people would use? John wrote a letter to a man named Gaius. And the title he used when he addressed that man reveals a lot to us about the man Gaius. And the more I think about the title he used, the more I understand why John said to that man, I wish above all things that you, he was talking to that man. We take that sentence out of context and we want to use it for everybody. But John was writing to a specific man, and he said, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. There was something about that man Gaius that John wished that he had prosperity and that he had health. Well, this morning what I want us to do is take a look at this man Gaius. I want us to go back and look at his title and what that reveals. I want us to look at what the things that John said about him, because sometimes people get so caught up in learning the next big truth that the basics of who we're supposed to be gets lost. If there's any group of people who can learn from Gaius, it is we who are seeking to get back to our Hebraic roots. It's true. Let's look at Gaius and let me explain what I mean. 3 John, only one chapter, we'll begin in verse 1. The elder, that's how John referred to himself, the elder unto the well-beloved Gaius. There's his title. Gaius, well-beloved, whom I love in the truth. Beloved, same word, as well-beloved. Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. For I rejoiced greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, even as you walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Beloved, there he calls him that again, same word. You do faithfully whatsoever you do to the brethren and to strangers, which have borne witness of your charity before the assembly, whom if you bring forward on their journey after a godly sort, you shall do well. Because that for his name's sake they went forth, taking nothing of the Gentiles. We therefore ought to receive such that we might be fellow helpers to the truth. So you see the title there that he referred to him by, and that is the title of well-beloved. John didn't just say that he loved Gaius. He said that Gaius was well beloved. He did say he loved him. I love you in the truth. But he called him the well beloved. And it's the most powerful Greek word for love that can be used, that's used here. Agapitos, agapitos. 3 times in the first 2 verses and 1 time in verse 5. It's how John addressed this man. My agapitos Gaius, whom I agapitos I wish, beloved I wish. So 3 times he's referring to this well-beloved man. This is not a commentary. I want you to get this now. This is not a commentary on how loving a person that John was. It's a commentary on how lovable Gaius was. It's easy to wish other people were more loving. It's less easy to look at ourselves and see what we might need to do to make ourselves more lovable. In other words, it's easy to read this and think, I wish I knew more people who were as loving as John. Look at him. Look at all the love he's expressing. He wrote Gaius a letter. He called him by nice names. He spoke kindly of him. He said many good things about him, wished him health and prosperity. I wish more people were like John. It's less easy to read this and think, wow, Gaius was a man that was lovable. I wonder what I need to do to be more like him. Right. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, being more lovable. And I know that's not a sermon topic that causes us to get very excited. You know, every group has its topics that it gets excited about. There are some groups that get excited about prophecy. If you're going to go talk to them, you better know something about prophecy. There are some groups that get real excited about the salvation message. If you're going to teach, you better not teach or preach without giving a salvation message while you're teaching and preaching. There are some folks that when you go talk to them, you better be talking about prosperity. If you're not talking about prosperity, you're not going to get their attention. Right. There are some folks who need every message to be some kind of encouragement on how to deal with life. And if you go into that group, you better talk in an encouraging way about how they're supposed to deal with life. And there are some, especially those who have gone back to their Hebraic roots, who want another new revelation to grasp onto. They want more knowledge, and they want more and more knowledge, and they want you to come with some new revelation every time you speak. And it would be very easy for us to fall into that group. Right. Well, we want to know more and more and more, and the love of and the hunger of truth is a good thing. Yes. Revelation knowledge is a good thing, but revelation knowledge is still knowledge. It was revealed, but it's still knowledge. So go to 1 Corinthians chapter 8 for a moment. Look in verse 1. Paul's going to be writing about a very important subject, and that is things offered to idols. But notice why he's got to address this issue. Listen to how he starts. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 1. Now, as touching things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Let that sink in. I've got knowledge, you've got knowledge, I'm writing to people who have knowledge. We know that we all have knowledge. Now listen to what he said about knowledge. Knowledge puffs up. Charity edifieth. And if any man thinks that he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. But if any man love our Elohim, the same is known of him. Well, we all have knowledge. That's good. Yeah. We all may be at different levels in the knowledge we have, and we all may have different parts of knowledge, but we all have knowledge. So having knowledge is good. It's better than not having knowledge. Yes, sir. It's a lot better than not knowing. Right. As long as we understand that with knowledge, there is a danger. It says knowledge does what? It puffs up. Knowledge inflates a person is what another way we could say that. It fills them with pride and causes them to be haughty. Knowledge fills people with pride. It doesn't say knowledge might puff you up. It doesn't say knowledge could puff you up. What does it say? It does puff you up. It inflates a person. Knowing this, with knowledge, even with revelation knowledge, we have to guard against what it can do to the inside of us. Now, I went to Statesville 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess it's been 3 weeks ago now, for a Doosan conference up there, a training. Well, on Thursday afternoon, they took us to a farm for skeet shooting. Been in classes all week long. That afternoon, we're going to go skeet shooting. Everybody know what skeet shooting is? The guy's name was Roger, I believe, that owned the place. Now, Roger was an interesting character. Roger had a mustache that you could have tucked it almost in his belt buckle down here. I mean, Roger was an interesting character. But before, there's 30-something of us, before we go out on his skeet shooting range, it's set up kind of like a golf course, if you've never been to one. There's different stations you go to, and at every station, there are traps set up. A trap is a machine that throws clay targets, clay pigeons, they're sometimes called. It'll fling them, and so at every station you set up there are at least 2 of those, and it might fling one of those clay targets at you. It might fling one from this side. It might roll it across the ground. It might throw it straight up. You don't know till you get there. But anyway, there's all of these stations you're going to go to. But before 30-something men are sent out there with weapons and ammunition, Roger wants to go over the rules. Anybody know what rule number 1 was? You want to take a guess what rule number 1 might be? That would be rule number 2. Rule number 1 was don't shoot Roger. And he went over that one several times. Don't shoot Roger. But then there were other rules. When not shooting, show safe. Anybody know what that means? Show safe. If you've got a weapon that breaks open, you keep it open. If you're not shooting, it's open. If you've got a semi-automatic weapon, you pull that, what do you call that thing? Help me. Chamber. Pull the chamber back. Lock that thing in place so anybody looking at your weapon can see that weapon's not ready to fire and it doesn't have any ammunition in it. And you don't point it at anybody. And when you are traveling from station to station, that's the way you carry your weapon. And when you get to the station you're going to be at, you do not put ammunition in that weapon until you stick the barrel of that thing out the window. And the window is just some 2x4 has been nailed up. You're going to be standing inside that window shooting away from everybody standing behind you. Then you load the weapon. Then you say pull and the targets come. Okay? Those are the rules. Why do you have rules like that? Because we're there to shoot what? Skeet. Clay targets. We're not there to just go blasting away at anything and everything. Right. The weapon was good. The ammo was good. Destroying the clay targets is good. But a loaded weapon puffs up. A loaded weapon can become a dangerous thing. Well, it's the same way with knowledge. Us being loaded with knowledge is a good thing. But we have to remember what the target is, and it's not people. Right. It certainly is not other people who also have knowledge but may not have the one little piece of knowledge that we think we have. Right. That's not who we're to blast, and not what we're supposed to be blasting with knowledge. Some people have knowledge and just blast away. They don't care who they hurt in the process. Just bam, bam, bam. They look like, in my mind, they look like Yosemite Sam on his rampage with Bugs Bunny. You know, angry at the world. Mumbling. Blah, 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 blah. You know how Yosemite, I wish I could mimic him. You know he's cussing under his breath. But he has this unrelenting pursuit to destroy Bugs Bunny. Well, there's a lot of people who have knowledge that are the exact same way. They have this unrelenting pursuit, and sometimes it looks like it is to destroy people who don't have all the knowledge they have, instead of just destroying lives. Right. Well, because we were there to shoot skeet, we were not there to just go blasting away at anything and everything. The weapon was good. We had rules. Well, the same thing should be true about knowledge. We need to know where our targets are.
Yes, sir.
And what we're to do with this knowledge. It's disturbing to me when you get on social media to see how cruel, hateful, proud, arrogant, and just mean that people can be about what they think they know. It's good to know, but it's not good to become so puffed up with the truth that you do know that no one can stand to be around you. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 8. Oh, you're there, aren't you? Look in verse 2. It's good to remember this verse. If any man thinks he knows anything, he knows nothing, yet as he ought to know. Now, does yours say any man? So I don't care who you are, any man covers it.
Yes, sir.
I don't care how much knowledge we have. I don't care how many hours we spent studying. I don't care how many books we read or how many YouTube videos we watched.
Right.
This says any man that thinks he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. That means any man. None of us knows everything yet that we ought to know.
Yes, sir.
None of us.
Yes, sir.
So with our pursuit of knowledge, then we also should be pursuing developing our likableness.
Amen.
We can't just pursue knowledge and not pursue a development of our personalities and our character. I'm not talking about compromising our principles, you understand. I'm not talking about participating in things just to be accepted. I'm just talking about being a more lovable human being. Like Gaius. Listen to what John said. For I rejoice greatly, verse 3, when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, even as you walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. So what does that tell you about Gaius? Was Gaius a man of compromise? No. He had this testimony. He walked in truth.
Right.
Everyone who knew him said this of him. He walks in truth. Well, what does that mean? What would John the elder, what would he mean if he's referring to a man that walks in truth? John would be referring to a man who walked in complete obedience to Torah and had faith in the Messiah.
Right.
He kept Torah and he had faith.
Yes, sir.
When John talks about somebody walking in truth, that's what he means. He means that this man kept Torah and followed Yahushua HaMashiach. He would see Gaius as a man that kept the Sabbath, kept the feast, obeyed the instruction from the book of instruction. That's who Gaius was. They didn't love him because he kept truth hidden. They didn't love him because he was a man of compromise. They loved him, and yet he walked in truth. Even though he walked in truth, he was loved. I'm in no way suggesting that everyone's going to love us. That's absurd, right?
Right.
But I am saying that all who are coming into this way, the way, all of us must learn how to walk in truth and not be a jerk about it. Not be proud and arrogant in the journey. Listen again to John in verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as what? Even as. Here's what John said to Gaius. My wish for you is that your bank account and your physical health might become as great as your soul.
Wow.
If John made that wish for us, would our finances and health have to increase or decrease?
Wow.
If our finances and health were going to be made equal to who we are on the inside, would they have to increase to match who we are, or would they have to decrease to match who we are? John saw in Gaius a man who on the inside was wealthy beyond measure. He said, I wish above all things your finances and your health might continue to grow until they match the richness of your soul. You know, because riches and health don't make a person great. A person can have money and still be a despicable person. Right. And a person can have health and still be a despicable person. There are people who think that if they had money or felt better, they'd be a better person. That's not so. This verse does not say, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health so that your soul would prosper. It says, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health, even as. Health and wealth will not cause your soul to prosper. Neither of those things can make us a better person. It says even as. This tells us that Gaius was a good person on the inside already. Yes, sir. His lovableness was not dependent on the size of his bank account. His lovableness was not dependent upon what bills were due that week. His lovableness was not dependent upon what machine broke at his house that week, what appliance broke that week. Come on. Yes, sir. His lovableness was not dependent upon how his vehicle was running. And his lovableness was not dependent upon the size of his biceps or how many miles he could run. Right? Gaius was a man who had learned, kept, and was doing Torah. And he learned how to do that and still be a lovable person. Yes, he did. He was the kind of man that when you were around him, you just felt better about life. He was the kind of man that when you were around him, you knew you were around a man who was genuine and true. You know, many people succeed at getting wealth and yet they're unattractive. Many people succeed at getting health, and yet they're unattractive. Right. And I'm not talking about physical attractiveness. I mean that even though people sometimes work hard to become something or somebody, they become a something or somebody that nobody else wants to be around. Right. Right. Many people succeed at getting money, but nobody wants to be around them. Many people succeed at disciplining their body and becoming healthy, but nobody wants to be around them. Right. And many people succeed at getting truth, and nobody wants to be around them. Right. You know, we'd all agree, wouldn't we, that what good is a good income without good insides? And what good is a good bank account without a good heart? And what good is a chiseled body without a good character? Well, what good is great knowledge without also being a good person? You know, I don't have to have the finest china to eat a meal. Just any old plate to do. I'll even eat off of chinette, paper plates. That's fine. But I do draw the line. I do not want to eat a meal off of a toilet lid. I'd just rather not. We have to make sure people aren't rejecting us instead of rejecting what we have to share. They may be willing to eat the knowledge we have, but they may not have any desire to eat it from the vessel that's being shown to them at the time. Luke chapter 2, turn there.